Got it, got it. So let me just introduce myself to you guys. Right, so myself, Amit, right, and I'm a solution architect from past 14 years. I'm working in this domain, and total years of experience I have around 19 years. And in this course, right, we would be using AWS Cloud, right? So we would be using AWS service provider as a cloud computing. And on top of that, we would be touching base all the four aspects of the services. So there are four aspects, four services that we have, right? So first is the software as a service, then you have a platform as a service, infrastructure as a service, and now you have another one more service called as database as a service, because in the market there are many type of databases that we have, right? So in this course we would be launching, doing the practical on AWS directly. So it's not that this training would be only theory. I will be providing you the theoretical aspects of cloud computing or working on AWS. We would be doing practical work on AWS cloud itself. So starting with that, right, we would be setting up the cloud infrastructure on AWS as a free tier, right? So we would be using free tier, and in the free tier, I'll explain you about what are the different quota that we have it, that we can use it. So to be easy and to be on a learning phase, AWS provides you cloud infrastructure free for 1 year. Till 1 year you can use cloud infrastructure free, but there is some foundations to it, right? So you cannot execute or EC2 24/7, 365 days, right? More than one machine, right? So all those bits and pieces we would be discussing in the training itself. So this training is a practical training, right? With theoretical aspects, right? I would be telling you about how to deploy it on cloud. Yes, Deepak. Your voice is breaking, Deepak. Can you please change the network? Yeah, your voice is breaking in between. So
It's looking, suppose you have joined with the two device, right? So check your side. Either you have to exit and then reconnect.
So, just to repeat one more time, right? We would be doing practicals on most of the services that we would be doing, right? Services, it's just a category, that is infrastructure as a service, software as a service, platform as a service, and then you have database as a service. So definitely we would be launching some services inside these categories, and we would be deploying the values into it. Even we would be doing migration. So the major part in the cloud is database migration. So definitely we would be doing database migration from on-premise, that is from your local system to the cloud-based platform, right? How you would be migrating the data, what are the different techniques that you have, and what is the best suited technique that you would be having, right? Those aspects we would be discussing. Okay. Now, today we would be just I would be introducing you about cloud. What is cloud? What is cloud computing? If you see in the first screen which I've shared, I guess you guys are able to see my screen, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Sure. Thanks for telling me. So the first screen that you're seeing, right, on a bigger note, right, the cloud computing services, you can see it clearly, right? So this is not a diagram which we have made. It's a survey which was offered in 2020 to 2021, and these are certain keywords which were fetched from the survey. So cloud computing survey, infrastructure is drastically being used, then web application is being used, web application services is being used, software are being used, Amazon storage on the right side you can see, right? Whereas if you see, Google is very small, so Google is used very less. So there are two major key players in the market that are using that people are using, or the companies are using. One is AWS, another is Azure, right? Whereas there are many service providers. We have Heroku also, GoDaddy also, Google is also there, right? And many more, right? But majorly AWS and Azure have a very good stake of the market, right? And these are all the services on what all things and what all values we use, and what are the details that we work upon into the cloud-based computing. Now, what is cloud computing, right? We say that, hey, we are using cloud as a services, right? And what do you understand by cloud computing? So, cloud computing is nothing, just an internet-based computing. When you use internet to do your computational power, or you do the computational work using your internet, that is called as cloud computing. Okay, be it you cannot see or touch the systems that you use, right? Be it if you are not capable enough to purchase heavy lifted servers, you use those servers, you rent it out, right? Traditionally, what you do, right, if you want to use heavy lifting work or heavy servers, you want to have it, right, and you don't have the capex. Capex means the cost itself, you don't have it. Then what you do, you rent out those servers. So rent are very much expensive also, and down the line it is more than the cost of the machine also, right? So that is why uh, people came up with the idea of cloud computing, that I'll make the data centers, and in the data centers itself I'll provide all the computers, and those computers can be shared across public. Okay, so publicly, sitting anywhere in the world doing your computational power, or you doing your computational work, that is the ability of cloud computing. I'll give one more example. In this era of COVID, right? Previously, many organizations were having desktops, and people were forced to come to office and do their work. But after the pandemic, right, they thought about, right, you we cannot work on desktops, so we shifted to cloud computing drastically, specifically infrastructure as a service, right? So in order to work in any organization, you need to have infra first, right? And infra will always cater your capex cost, huge capex cost. So when there is a capex cost and you want to cut short those capex cost, you have to move to cloud computing. You have to move to cloud computing, right? So that is why people, they switch to infrastructure as a service, which is offered very less in AWS. Right, in AWS, it's very less. So people were given virtual machines, and they can use their own personal laptops to log on to their machine and do their work from their home itself. And there are many companies till now also, they have they have given it this as permanent, right? Work from home as permanent. People can work from home, right? Capex cost is removed, and there are hidden cost also in the company which gets removed, right? So that's why this cloud computing is very fruitful for the organization when we talk about on capex costs. Okay, now when you see cloud computing, right, be it if you're sitting it here in Delhi, or you're sitting it in US, or you're sitting it in Australia, right, the same work that you are doing, you would be able to do it. Okay, it's not that the work will change, or there would be certain changes in the work. Definitely any work which is there, right, 24 by 7, and across all the locations that you have it, right, you would be able to work on the same project or on the same part that you are working on. The only condition is internet. You need to have internet, right? If you don't have internet, then you cannot do it. That is the only demerit of cloud computing, right? That's the only demerit of cloud computing, that internet is required, and that is high speed net, right? If you don't have a very good internet at your place, right, and you're working on cloud computing, right, definitely you have to sit back and see the process will definitely be over, but in your system it will still show that it is running. So that is why internet should be a good internet connection is required for cloud computing. That is why if you see there are very less internet services in Africa. So what Facebook did, Facebook launched internet based balloons, right? So as those balloons were throwing internet across different locations of Africa, and people were able to use Facebook now, that is Meta, right? So that is they're growing the business. Think about running a balloon over Africa and gathering more users. What would be fruitful? Running a balloon over the uh, Africa is will generate more cost, or onboarding many users would generate revenue to them. Definitely, onboarding the users will generate more revenue. So that is the things that people they do. Even let me tell you, right, with the machines, right, when we say infrastructure as a service, and we what we use, right, the infra that we use, right, definitely you need to have electricity, you need to have the cooling system, right, because if you run your laptop also 24 by 7, right, it will get heat up, or your desktop will get heat up. You need to cool it down, you need to have a proper cooling system. So what people and people some of the people came and they gave the solution. Why not we dump our servers in Pacific Ocean? Pacific Ocean is very cold. It's very cold in Pacific Ocean. So what they did, just besides Antarctica, they dumped down those capsules. So this is done by Microsoft. Okay, so Microsoft came up with the idea called as cloud computing capsules. You can search it on the internet also. Those capsules have a grid of 64 computers, 64 servers, which can be used in cloud computing. And as a greenhouse project, right, they were able to reduce the temperature by 28 degrees, right, by dumping their capsules in the ocean. So they don't have to have ACs or cooling system installed. Automatically the water in the Pacific Ocean will cool them down. And on top of that, they would be running on lithium batteries, which can be changed in 5 years in a row, right? Within 5 years you can change one the lithium battery. So you dump down those capsules and you take out those capsules after 5 years, change the batteries, and then again you dump down. That's the activity which Microsoft does, that is Azure Cloud. Okay, now if you see this diagram, right, cloud computing, the we'll go from bottom to up, right? First is we have the infrastructure. Infrastructure will gather about networking, storage, processing power, anything which is physical. Okay, anything which is physical, be it is it's a computer, or be it's a hard drive storage, or be it's a network. For network also you need to have hardware. If you don't have the hardware, then again it will not work. So anything which incurs hardware would land up into where? It would land up into infrastructure as a service. Okay, anything, any service which requires multiple softwares, multiple connectivity between the softwares, between the services, between the servers, is called as platform as a service. So platform will incur, you will have an infra for it, you'll have a software for it, you'll have a connectivity between it, right? And the whole thing will called as a platform as a service. Okay, I'll take one example, right? Google is a platform, right? If you see Google, you can search also, you can use your email service also, you can use storage as G Drive, Google Drive. You can send mail, receive mail. You can do multiple things, multiple tasking. That is called as platform as a service. Okay. On top of that, you have application as a service, which will land up into software as a service. Now, software as a service would be, suppose there is a specific software. For example, most of the companies, they make their reports in Power BI or Tableau, right? Or even they're using our studios. They are working on IoT. Sorry, IoT will land up into platform. Okay. So certain applications, machine learning, right? So certain softwares that are demanded by the organization or by the project, that will land up into application called as software as a service. Whenever we are talking about the application or a software, it will end up into SaaS, software as a service, right? Whenever we are talking about multi-work, multitasking, multiple things, it will end up into platform as a service, PaaS. When we're talking about infrastructure, hardware, right, it will end up into IaaS, infrastructure as a service. And now there is a new part from 2019, which is into effect, called as DaaS, called as database as a service. Whenever we want to store the data, whenever we want to store the data, right, it will be database as a service. Right. So DWS would be database as a service, and we have many types of databases, right? MySQL, NoSQL, a new SQL, graph database, big database, right? So all of them will end up into database as a service. This is the whole cloud computing that we have it. Okay, any questions in this?
No, nothing. You can proceed. You.
No, you can continue.
Okay, sure, thanks. Now, if you see now in the rest of the slides, I have given certain examples, right? If you see, talking about as an infrastructure as a service, right? Google Drive, Google Store, or OneDrive or Google Drive. These are certain examples of IaaS, infrastructure as a service. How do you just map your system drive into your system, and you can just drag and drop into it, right? And automatically your files would be available, just like you have iCloud in Apple mobile phones, right? You have iCloud, right? So in iCloud itself, you can use it. So just like same thing, you have it here as OneDrive or Google Drive, called as infrastructure as a service. What are the benefits of cloud computing, right? On-demand self-service, broader network access, rapid elasticity, measured services, lower cost, and reliability. Now, what is on-demand self-service? Whenever there is a demand, you can just launch those services 24/7. You don't have to wait for the servers. You don't have to wait for the software license. You don't have to wait for the installation. Directly go into the platform, launch it, and you would be able to run your services, right? So you don't have to wait. You can just, whenever there is a demand, go and launch your services in any of the service categories. Broader network access. Suppose there is a client in US, and they are setting up a new infrastructure in Australia, and they want to migrate their data to Australia, right? So definitely by cloud computing, they would be able to transfer the data from US to Australia directly. Or if they want to get the data from Australia also to be stored in US, definitely they can do it, because you have data centers, we have regions. So regions are declared in data centers, and data centers are again classified into sub data centers in cloud-based computing. So we would be discussing, once I will be showing you the AWS console. There, as in, we would be discussing this network. Rapid elasticity means, for example, if I talk about the example in India, right? There was a huge update in the taxation website, right? And TCS was a organization which updated the things on that website. and they thought that only 50,000 users would be accessing that website in the initial phase. But what happened? 10 lakh people were there, and due to that, what happened? The site crashed. Right? Nobody was able to access it. Right? So this is when you guess the wrong infra, you guess the wrong inputs, you guess the wrong usability of the project. This happens, right? The project went down, the website is down, right? The server goes down, right? So in order to cater that, right, you have a elasticity, right? Automatically, when the load is increasing, the network power, the infrastructure power will automatically increase. Definitely, if you have a system of 8 gigs, right, 8 GB of RAM, you have it in your system, and you're working on 10 different projects or 10 different softwares, what will happen? Your system would be very slow. What you'll do, you'll increase it to 16 GB, and then you'll work. And after that work is completed, again, there is only one application that you're working on. Then the rest 8 GB is when you have purchased from 8 to 16 GB, that 8 GB that you purchased is now useless. Right. So in that case, right, you use cloud computing elasticity, automatically it will scale up and scale down once the load is completed. Measured services, we can measure how much cost it is generating. If you want to create certain alarms, we can do that, right? So as we don't land up into situations where we have to pay more. The cost of all the services are very less, and it is reliable because of different substandards that are adhered by AWS itself. Okay. Any questions in the benefits? Any questions, anyone?
No question.
Sure. Okay. On-demand self-service. Now I've explained all these things, right? On-demand self-service, you can see whether you are on laptop, whether you are on mobile, or whether you are in any other part, right? Whenever you need, you would be given the service itself. Client can provision computer resources without the need of interaction with cloud service provider personally. You don't have to call the cloud infrastructure or the people there, right? You can just log on and launch the services, right? It's an on-demand self-service that you have it, right? So that is the end of the introductory session for today, right? From tomorrow, we would be setting up the AWS account, and we would be starting with the infrastructure as a service. The first service that we would be launching is EC2, right? Elastic Cloud Computing, right? What are the service? What is the different point of services that we have it, right? What are the different environments we have it? So we would be launching Windows, Linux, as well as AWS Linux platform. Okay, so there are keys associated to it. So there are certain softwares that we have to install it. I would be sending out those software details. So by tomorrow itself, we would be installing, and we will be starting with the deployment as well as learning of infrastructure as a service. Okay.
Okay.
Done.
So we meeting